Today's episode of the Ramp It Up podcast contains explicit language and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener's discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Ramp It Up podcast with your host, Ronell Sinuis.
Are you ready to ramp it up?
Ramp it up, ew!
Hey yo, ramp it up, B.
Girl, ramp it up! Ramp it up!
The Ramp It Up podcast.
Hey, you need to ramp it up.
Ramp it up.
And we are back for the first episode of the Ramp It Up podcast for the year 2026. Y'all, I missed you. A lot has been going on, but I am back and better than ever. We are starting off the year with nothing but positivity and hoping that everyone else is doing the same. And speaking of positivity, one of the brightest shining lights on my timeline, always a source of positivity and good word, and a few high notes on my timeline. I have to say thank you to Cherelle Jackson, aka CJ, for joining me here on the podcast. I've been following her on Instagram and Facebook for years now. We essentially got injured very close around the same time. So CJ, say what's up to the people.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, we've definitely been following each other's journeys for quite some time, so it's good to be able to set aside some time to chat.
I've been wanting to do it for a minute, since, like I said early on, if I'm not mistaken, your entry was in January of 2017,
Yes.
literally weeks after mine. Mine was December of 16. Yeah, so
Wow.
we were probably in therapy at the same time, but of course in our
Yeah.
respective states. But after coming out, I think a lot of us who've had spinal cord injuries did the same thing. We went straight to the internet. We went on YouTube or we went on Instagram or whatever our socials were to find someone or some instruction or some kind of support to help us in this journey. And like I said early on, you're one of the pages that I found and have been following. So again, thank you for always being so positive and so open and candid with everything you share.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, coming out like as soon as I was able to use my phone, that was like my number one goal. I'm like, I need to reach out. I need to find some people. I need to watch some videos, like, because it's a whole new life that you step into. Like it's really like part two of, our lives.
Many people, I think, refer to it as their rebirth day. And yeah, that's exactly what it is in many ways. I tend to tell folks I am and always will be Rodell. Am I the same Rodell? Not necessarily, because every day you become a new person. Your new experiences and the new knowledge that you acquire changes you a little bit. The spinal cord injury changes you a lot. So I am definitely
Yeah,
Rodell, but with a new twist on it, I would say.
yeah, I agree.
So as much as I've had the opportunity to follow your journey, I want to again introduce you to the audience, our podcast listeners here. So, Cherelle Jackson, who were you, or tell me a little bit about yourself prior to January 2017?
Wow. Okay. So prior to January 2017, I would say, like personality wise and things like that, I would say that I was probably the same person, like always super positive, upbeat. I was working in a Montessori setting then, so I was teaching young children, and that's something I really loved, and I was really devoted to, and just kind of working my way up in that world. I also really love music, as you can see from my page, and so I was, like writing some songs, recording some music, teaching, just living like a young independent life, of a 24, 25-year-old at the time.
So now, as far as well, first of all, I want to establish, although you're wearing an amazing Florida sweatshirt, where are you from?
I am from Georgia, born and raised on like the north side of Atlanta, Gwinnett. People may know that area, but yeah, that's where I was born and raised. Went to school, Savannah, Savannah State University, and now I'm living back right outside the city. I love Georgia. Like we were talking about the weather earlier, you can't really beat the South.
I think Miami beats Georgia when it comes to weather, but we won't do that. We're not going to do that. But yeah, shout out. I have some family out in the Georgia area, so shout out to my boys out in Georgia. I actually have a couple other quad friends who are in the Georgia area as well. So shout out to y'all if y'all listening a little later on. Y'all better be listening later on. But anyway, so was music something you were doing or aspiring to do professionally, or was it just a passion or a hobby?
Well, I one of the funny things is shortly before the accident, I would say maybe a year before the accident, I found like this time capsule box that I had written like my senior year of high school. And two of the things that I said I wanted to do was to either be a teacher or to be a singer. So right before my accident, I was doing both of those things. If it went like professionally, then I would love that. If I was just a wedding singer or doing things, at small venues or just writing and putting out my music to whoever might hear it, then that was good enough for me because I just always loved singing as I was growing up and I loved children. I loved educating. I had like the patience for it and the joy for it. So those two things were things that I wanted to do and essentially was doing them.
And that in and of itself is amazing because at that age, that's our exploratory times, our 20s, trying to figure out who we are and what we want to do. And just the fact that you had that in your time capsule and here you are teaching and doing music, so like you were really on the right path. I think at that time, closer to when I was having my injury, I kind of was in my journeyman phase, like trying to figure it all out. And I finally settled into um, being on the radio and doing journalism. And I felt I talk, I'm loud, I'm a talker. So I was like, well, this is exactly what I should have been doing all my life, a microphone, like
Yeah.
goodness. So, being similarly where you were, enjoying what life was bringing me, grabbing it by the reins and just going full throttle. And if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about leading up to your injury, what actually happened.
So the night or the night going into my injury, I was with my friends celebrating New Year's, which is like my favorite holiday. I've always just loved it and been fascinated by it since I was a kid. And so we were just getting ready to go out like we normally would, and somebody else was driving who I wasn't as familiar with. I'd like met him a year previous, but so we were going out, but me and my friends weren't really drinking very much, and so we assumed the same for the driver, but that was not the case. And he was much more intoxicated than we had anticipated. And I remember leaving the place that we were at, and we were going to go get ready to have something to eat. And that's the last thing I remember before waking up in the hospital and my mom saying, "You've been in a bad accident."
So this was New Year's going into 2017. So here I am, literally laid up in the hospital bed, just chilling. I think my brother was in the room with me New Year's Eve, and you were out as many of us tended to be celebrating however we were, and then
Mhm.
it was the next day you woke up, or did you? 'Cause I know some people post accidents were in comas for a little while, or just
Um,
unconscious.
I don't even know. I couldn't have been the next day because I had a very long surgery, as many of us do. I think I was in surgery for more than 12 hours. So it may have been 3 or 4 days later, honestly, when I did, finally open my eyes a little bit. My mom was just telling me, "You're in the hospital, you had a bad accident." And in those early stages, we're on like so much medication and they're monitoring you and everything like that. So at the first about I think 2 weeks was very blurry. I would be awake for a short period of time and then I'd be asleep. I'd have people that were coming to visit me. So I remember conversations here and there. But yeah, so it could have been a few days before that. But yeah, I remember being in the car and headed to get something to eat. And then I woke up, to like a huge surprise, which I didn't even really come to the full realization of what was going on yet.
Which is really where I wanted to go next. Because in contrast, I was very aware of, unfortunately, every moment of my accident. Mine was a diving accident, and literally from impact to going into my MRI, I was just eyes wide open. I know everything outside of like a short nap I took on the drive, but I was there. I was like completely aware of everything, and it's very
Wow.
surreal. And I've had similar conversations in other interviews where others either just had no idea of what happened until they woke up, and others who were very apparent and aware throughout each and every step. And it's very surreal because you're similar to you. I was having fun, group of friends, having a great time. And then in the snap of a finger, everything kind of changes. And now you're literally in survival mode, fighting for your life. And, I would say the difference is I'm awake. So I'm trying to keep it together. I'm usually a calm guy. I'm not the
Yeah.
freak out type of guy. I remember we were praying on the boat, and one of the young ladies was singing a hymn, and uh, again, going to the hospital, it was kind of surreal. It didn't feel like it was happening to me. I'm like, this is a weird episode of House. Like, what's going on? We
Right.
are, but you're the main character for some reason.
Yeah.
And it feels almost like an out of body experience. And doctors are talking to you and they're saying things, and you're just waiting for, all right, this is a long ass show or a long movie. When is it going to end?
Right.
Because you're not, it doesn't feel like you're cognizant that it's happening to you, but you're not sure. So what was it like? Again, you clearly know I'm not in my own room, I'm not in my bed, I'm in a hospital, and they're telling you all these things. Of course, you said your mother shared the news to you. So how how was it hearing the news, and how was it accepting the news?
So for me, my mom told me that I was in an accident, but it was never really relayed to me exactly what had happened or that like what my condition was. And I knew that I could not move. I knew that I could not speak because I was intubated at the time. I knew that I wasn't eating. I knew that I was very thirsty, and I'm like, why won't they let me drink? And so all of that, it was like a lot of things were piling on that I was kind of like putting little pieces together. And then eventually I was kind of like, oh, like I'm not getting up to go to the bathroom. Like I feel like it's been a couple days and I'm just in this bed and I'm like, am I able to get up, And so slowly but surely, like more information started to come out that I had had a really bad accident and that I was paralyzed. And in my initial paralysis, it was like neck down. I couldn't move anything, but I thought, that I was. And I think one of the moments that I realized that my body was like truly having a disconnect was one day they like pulled the sheets back to do something or another. I don't remember what was going on at the time, but I felt as though like my arms were like crossed in front of me, as if my arms were crossed. But when they pulled the sheet back, they were like down to my sides. And I was like, this is weird. Like this is not normal. Like why am I feeling like my arms over there? And of course then I couldn't move them and I was like, okay, all right. This is
That is
this
very
is not
eerie
good.
because I had a very mirrored experience, although it was also opposite because I felt the immediate disconnect to my body in some sense because I mean I'm underwater and I'm like I can't get up out this water, So for me, I thought I was concussed, and then only my right arm and my right leg could move, and the left side just could not move. And then as the hours passed, they were moving less and less. And I ended up having, again, fast forwarding a few days, I had a similar sensation with my arms, where I'm laying in the bed. I'm very aware my arms are on my side, like they showed me my arms, and it felt like someone was pulling my arms down, like behind me, as if I was getting handcuffed. And I felt my arms behind me, and I'm like, well, that's impossible. I'm laying down on, but they're not. So it's weird because the nerves are just freaking out. Your body is trying to make sense of it as much as your mind is, and the nerves are just going everywhere. So for you, did anyone have that moment where they were like, CJ, you're not going to be able to stand again, or you're not going to walk, or did you kind of just, Sherlock Holmes and put it together?
I was kind of putting it together, but I never really had like that finite moment where they're like, this is it, it's done. I went to the Shepherd Center in Atlanta about, I want to say maybe about a month after my accident. And when we meet with the doctors, they were kind of just open-ended because the doctor that I actually had, Dr. Lynn, he is also a spinal cord injury survivor and he's a para. So it was like kind of cool, having your
Wow.
doctor be a spinal cord injury survivor. So he was explaining everything and just saying, like, this is where your level is, and these are things that might happen, these are things that might not happen, but that it was going to be a long-term situation that I would not be able to use my body in the way that I was able to use it before.
And I think that is something that they practice across the board. Very few ever say definitives. You know what I mean? Unless it's something where it's like, hey, your leg is just not there anymore. They leave it very open ended. Um, I remember I had the accident on Friday afternoon. It was Saturday. One of the doctors that was attending was like, "Did anyone really tell you what's going on?" I was like, "Nope. I just, I'm just waiting for this headache to stop, and I'll go home." And that's pretty much what
I'm
it is.
here.
She was just like, "No, it was a pretty bad accident. You're." I don't remember if she ever said paralyzed, but she said you won't be able to walk. And it still did. What you talking about? I've been playing sports. I lift weights. What are you talking about? Like, I'm good. And then, I think, as they say, the steps of acceptance or whatever it is, denial is one of them. And that's what it was. But then what I didn't know at the time, I was in Haiti when I had the accident. The facility that I was in was established by a neuro surgeon, very famous here in South Florida. I think Shepherd is just above Jackson, I guess, as they rate spinal cord injury facilities. And
Right.
he started that facility in Haiti, and he was the one who was seeing me when I came here. So I was lucky enough to have him on both ends. Shout out to my cousin who was
Wow.
working with him at the time. Shout out Martine. So she literally called and was like, "Yeah, my cousin had a spinal cord injury, and you will be taking care of him. Thank you." So when I got here, although no one was a para like yours, like that was must have been great. But they were giving me similar, like, hey, this is a long term situation. You're going to have to adapt life and learn different ways to do things with your body. But now, as many of us who've had this injury know, occupational, physical, speech therapy were part of it. But there was also the psychological portion. So, did they provide that for you? And what was your response to that sort of therapy?
So they did. They had a I guess she's a psychologist, but she's a doctor who would come in every week and kind of just chat with you and do little catch-ups and things like that. And for the most part, most of the time I was like pretty positive because I was like, this isn't gonna be forever, and we're gonna do some therapy and I'm gonna leave out of here walking. I'm gonna be the best case scenario. I'm not gonna go home like this or whatever. So even so much to the fact that like be like, oh, we'll have some peer support people come in. And I'm like, oh no, I don't need peer support to come in because I'm not going to be like a part of this group. They're not going to be
Yeah.
my peers because I'm going to leave out of here walking. I'm going to be the best case scenario. But that of course did not happen. And as we were getting closer and closer to going home, I felt that I did open up more and more to her on that like mental health aspect to really talk about like, okay, what are some things that are bothering me? What are some things that I'm going to have to learn how to deal with differently? Because going from doing everything yourself
Yeah.
and having people have to help you with like almost everything is complete 180. So yeah, they did provide that, mental health support and peer support. And it was really great, honestly. Like by the time that I left, I felt like equipped to leave, especially with them, showing us how to do the care and everything like that. But it's just like you said, like it's such a long road ahead. You don't even realize like how much more is going to change and things that are just going to happen that might get you up or down. Like an everyday battle that like we're going through.
Okay, so real fast, how long was your hospital stay from injury to being discharged and becoming outpatient?
I was there for about 4 months. I went in January and I got out in April.
Man, they are not about that life in South Florida. I had 46 days from the day I arrived from Haiti to I go home. So that was, and from what I understand, the average is about a month now of, and that has a lot to do with insurance. So the voters and Medicare and all these other things, yeah, it makes a big difference when you have a life-changing experience and they give you, and it's not 30 days to get used to it because it includes surgery and being in ICU. So that's about 2 weeks. So yeah, you get a solid 20 some days to get acquainted to a new body, a new way of living life. And shout out to Jackson Memorial Hospital, the Christine E. Lynn spinal cord injury facility that did great. The rehabilitation program, like they surround you because it's 24 hours. Let's be honest. Like the moment you wake up, there's a therapist or a tech in your face at all
Yeah,
times trying to help you do something, trying to gauge what you can do or get you used to someone doing it. But it's not enough time. It's not enough time to get you acquainted to what's going on. It's not enough time to get used to someone being in your face at all times of the day. I'm very friendly, I'm very outgoing, but I'm really private. Like, don't touch my stuff. Don't even, touch
yeah,
my, like, yo, and it's very difficult. Like, even someone deciding the pace you're going to eat at, like something like that, as simple as like, well, I
yeah.
wanted salad my next bite. What do you mean you're giving me so
Oh my gosh.
it
Yes.
was a very hard thing. And, thankfully I have, which I would like to go into next, like a great support system. Like I'm the last of six siblings, and they were all here in South Florida at the time, doing their best to help. Many nephews and nieces, everyone kind of jumped in and played a part. So, what was your support system like?
Yes, that is so awesome that you have all those siblings. Oh my gosh, especially you being the baby. I'm sure they were just
Yeah,
there
it
immediately. They
sucks
were like,
sometimes because they'll steal like your cookie and you can't do nothing about it. But they're great.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So my support system was really great. My family is pretty close. They mostly all live in Georgia. So, I mean, when they were telling me how when I was in the hospital, still they couldn't find me, first of all, when I was initially brought into the hospital. They said that like the whole waiting room when I was in the hospital and they were like trying to find me and was telling them like how my surgery went and things. Like it's almost like the whole waiting room stood up. So I have my dad's side of the family, my mom's side of the family, friends that were there with me. So everyone was really supportive, and I'm really thankful for that. I spent I think there was like one night when I was at Grady, this was before I went to Shepherd, that I spent a night by myself, and I was intubated. I couldn't speak at all. And I was trying to tell the nurse something, and I just felt like she was ignoring me, And after that, I literally did not spend another night in the hospital or in Shepherd Center by myself until the time that I left, the 4 months later. So I think the night before I went home, I stayed by myself because everybody else was moving my things to like a downstairs apartment for me to stay with my mom and everything like that. So I stayed that night by myself, but there was just people on rotation, always there to help me or just to be there as like a personal, reference instead of it just always being healthcare workers and things that were there with me. They were there as like, my family and friends to kind of just support and kind of bring some normalcy to it, so that I'm not feeling like I'm this patient constantly.
It's great that you say that because I can express how much I owe my family and friends and just how amazing they were in that moment. Um, so essentially, it was almost like you were in like a dorm for therapy here with post spinal cord injury. Some people shared a room, it may have been two, and some, luckily myself, I had my own room for a while. And, it was just a long hallway of different people with spinal cord injuries. And, they would come and get us to go to therapy when we needed. But my room was always full. And to the point where the nurses were kicking people out. Like, legit, we would have 10 to 20 people there at all times, come to hang out, come to talk, help me with therapy or whatever.
Yeah.
But they were great. And, that extended to even when I came home in those first few weeks when people got permission, like, hey, he's okay enough to get visits. People would come to the house and it was almost detrimental because here I am barely able to speak. I'm like, hi guys, how's everybody doing? And, still cracking jokes, still hanging out. But it was just, like you said, that sense of normalcy where they were like, yo, look, you're still RC. We still want to be around. We still want to joke around. And I think that made the biggest difference between me pushing past those first few months, which were, of course, very difficult to adapt to. And I think, speaking of adaptation, figuring out my relationship now with the rest of the world. You know what I mean? I'm not working in the same capacity I was working in. I was no longer as social as I was before. And as you no doubt know, some of those same people that said, yo, we're on Team CJ ain't there for very long. They disappear or just never showed up. So, what
Yeah.
was that transition like? I know therapy kind of felt like a safe place. And then of course, family was, but now the real world is hitting you literally like head on. How was that like?
So for me, I think that a lot of my a lot of my friends that were like truly my friends, because for myself, I feel like I would describe myself as like a popular loner. Like I knew a lot of people,
Wait,
but
that's a new term. Okay.
yes, so like I knew a lot of people, I hung out with a lot of people and things like that, but also at the same time, I had just a small like close knit group of friends that I really was close to. And those people really, stuck by me and were there and um, really supported me and just tried to make things seem normal. Like, oh, we're going to go out or, we'll come there and we'll eat and hang out and just do regular stuff, just to be normal. But of course, like us outside of that, like the
friends that are in like the outer circle, I guess, of course, those people like stop inviting you places or don't think about you when they have like their events and things like that. Or they end up inviting you and then they forget, like, oh, this is like inaccessible and you actually can't even come in and stuff like that. So that I would say was like a little bit difficult because even though I am like just a little bit more introverted and I do like my time to myself and just hanging out with like a few friends here and there, I like to socialize and have fun and go out. Like, who doesn't like to be invited? Who doesn't like to hang out and enjoy yourself from time to time? So those moments decreasing was kind of, it was definitely hard sometimes. And I'll be like, the reason I'm not invited or you know, spoken to in like the same frequency or manner as before. It's like because of my injury, and that sucks.
I think you summed it up well. It sucks. Like you go from, as you said, being popular, whether loner or not, but from knowing you would have been invited immediately to all of these events and would have been all up in the spot to now finding out on social media that there was an event. Or, as you said, they invited you, but they're like, oh, sorry, we forgot to check if there were stairs or not. So you're kind of like, I guess I'm not gonna go. It's a big hit. And for me, I think what was worse were people that you expected to be by your bedside at some point or another, either in the hospital or at home, who just didn't show up. And I think some showed up later on when they kind of got used to the idea, but there were those that just never popped up. And I looked at it as such as life, I didn't take it personal. I have no beef with them. I don't look at it in either perspective because not everyone can handle it. I think I had to learn early on that the injury didn't just happen to me. Other people were affected, clearly not as much as we
Right.
were, but the vision of CJ, the vision of Ronell that they had was no longer the same. So they didn't know how to interact with us. It changed their lives to some degree as well. And some adapted, thankfully, and others just hauled ass.
Yeah, that's very true because one of my friends when she came to visit me, she's like, well, I feel better now that, like I have visited you and I see how you are and how you're doing, because he's like, you're actually just like the same. I thought that it was going to be something totally different, and of course like the interactions and things are different because of not like literally not having the ability to do some
Mm-hmm.
things. But yeah, she was like, oh, I'm glad you're feeling well. And I was like, do you think I was going to be all mangled? And so like everyone laughed and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much, I'm luckily the same person. Thank God I don't have like a TBI or anything like that. But yeah, that's true that some people they don't know how to deal with it the same. Some people have like guilt that, they may feel like, or at least people have said things to me like, oh, I feel like you were such a great person and why would this happen to you? And then I'm doing this and that and like still living my life and stuff like that, which it's nothing we can control. Anything can happen to anybody. Like
To
nothing is
anyone at
guaranteed in
any
life.
time. Yep. Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't matter
So
how good of a person you are, or bad, or rich or poor, male or female, your age. And I think that's what I've also heard too. Like, oh, but you're so young. Like, I know worse things that happen to younger people. So, I think I was able from day one to say, well, thank God I'm breathing. What I mean? I made it out of there. Like you said, I didn't leave there with a traumatic brain injury. I didn't leave with, honestly, literally, it's just a spinal cord injury. I think my shoulder was dislocated a little bit. But
yeah.
outside of that, I mean, I talked to some other friends that were, that we make in therapy, and they were like, yeah, I shattered my femur. I broke this, and I was like, oh, I just, I hurt my neck. And, that was it. Like, it sucks. But,
Yeah.
thank God that it wasn't something more so that left me in a position where I'm on a ventilator. And, that says nothing against anyone who's on there, but I'm just grateful to be able to say, you know what, thank you that I am whole as I am. And I'm gonna take that gift and move forward with it. Because again, people thought they were gonna come home and just find me in a catatonic state, and I'm just unable to tell jokes. But when I tell my first dark wheelchair joke, they're all shocked. I'm like, what? I can't. I, we would have made fun of each other anyway. I might as well start.
Right. Might as well start. Yeah,
So
exactly.
I would say so. One of the hardest parts for me, in the beginning, was the boredom. We're not working anymore. We're not being as socially active. We're not out and about in the same way. And um, I think assistive technology wasn't where it is now a couple years ago, especially, some of the Siri devices and some of the voice control that is now more prevalent. So, what did you do to pass the time? What did you turn to keep your brain working and to keep you feeling active?
Yeah, so excuse me. Yeah, but in the beginning, I was feeling the same way. Like I'm super bored. So while I was impatient, they had assistive technology came and they had like these glass eye glasses that they let me try to use my phone. So like every moment that I could try to use my phone the best I could, even though I had to like just click with my mouth and point with my eyes. And it was very difficult and tiring to do at times. But I was like, I've got to figure out how to use my phone. And another time they brought in this thing called a quad joy and set it up in my room, and it was like you could just use the little mouth stick and go on your phone and you like blow and suck and press and all these things to get your phone to work. So that was really awesome when they set that up in my room, because then whenever I came back from therapy, I could go on there and usually use my phone without needing any assistance from anyone, because I wasn't able to move my arms yet as well as I could. Like my left one is more mobile than my right one now, which I'm so thankful for. Especially like you were saying with the eating, like I was like, I have to feed myself, because people, you never realize like how things are so different until you're unable to do them yourself. You're like, why are you feeding me this way? Like, why don't you eat your food like I eat my food? So
It's like
yeah, so
rice
as
goes
soon
with
as
chicken. Like, why don't you know that?
right, I'm like, I'm a mixer, I want the pancakes with the eggs, and they're not giving it to me like that. So boredom was definitely difficult. Once I got home, I would be on my phone. I would watch TVs and shows and stuff like that, which was okay. But one of the ways I got over that was starting like the Seated Covers channel, where I do sing to strengthen my diaphragm, because as a quadriplegic, like my diaphragm is very, very weak. And so we did that during therapy when I was inpatient. So I was like, oh, I can sing songs on here with one of my friends, and he would play the guitar. And so that passed a lot of time. I always liked language learning. So I would download apps like Duolingo and stuff like that and watch shows in Spanish, just something to keep the brain going for a little bit of the time. And I was super blessed to be able to have a van given to me like basically a week or so after I had left
Wow, that's dope.
inpatient. Yeah. So I was still able to get out and do stuff, or and kind of at least explore the world and see what it was going to be like now, going places in a wheelchair and just going out and figuring it out. So everything just kind of fell into place, and I figured out ways to occupy my time, because watching shows definitely gets old. Being in the house all the time definitely gets old really quickly.
I don't think people realize what 24 hours is when you're just stuck in a room and can't move and you're waiting on someone to come do something. Like, no, no, no. It is it's not the hours, it's the seconds, okay? It's not 24 hours. It's however many thousands of seconds it is, because you're waiting and you're waiting, and it's like, okay, is it okay to call them back to come do something else for me? No, they were just here 5 minutes ago, but I want them to do
Right, like they were
so.
just here.
And again, it's just interesting how we mirrored, because as much as you enjoyed singing, my voice was important for me for what I was doing for work. And a new passion I found. And
Yes.
although I was never intubated, thankfully I never had the trach. I was just intubated for therapy. Although they tried to kill me with the CPAP machine, no one explained to me how to use it. I thought it was just kind of be like oxygen. So when they put it in, it like just forced air. I was like, oh, I'm gonna die. Like, this is it. Like I survived the injury just to die from air. So thankfully, I didn't have that part, and I did well in speech therapy. But as I told you before, I was still having a lot of trouble speaking, and I would get lightheaded. I passed out a few times mid conversation, just
Yeah.
because you're trying to get so much out, but our capacity for breathing and that it just wasn't there yet. So when everyone, like my entire PT or just therapy staff, found out that I was on the radio, they're like, we gotta make this happen again. And
Yeah.
we were doing all of this occupational therapy to get my voice back up, although it's not where it was before, but I'm, a lot louder now. I'm able to speak much longer. And as similar to you with your seated covers, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna get back on the radio. And I did for a few episodes on the morning show I worked on, but then I decided I had to do my own thing, and I got a laptop with some assistive technology through vocational rehab, and I was able to start recording. I was sending out demos to anyone that was taking voiceover work and for Audible, and it was all practice to kind of get my voice back to where I was until I started the Ramp It Up podcast in 2020, and I say it was self therapeutic. I had no idea I'd be going into 6 seasons. This was just to kill the time. It was to
Yeah.
help me build the voice back up. So now, did you imagine that you'd be, doing this much singing? Because as you said, if you go back to the beginning, you hear how weak your voice was and how you're working on building it to where it is now, just watching some of your most recent videos.
Yeah, I really wanted to, and I tried my best to, because I wanted to like talk so bad. I wanted to get off the ventilator so bad, because the only thing worse than not being able to do something yourself is not being able to tell somebody how to do it for you. Like, and you're just sitting there trying to mouth things out and gesture towards things. And I'm like clicking to get people's attention. So I think I I really wanted to. I wanted my voice to be stronger. I wanted to be able to speak louder, and it's still not where it needs to be. Sometimes when I find myself in like these loud conversations with friends and stuff like that, and I'm trying to keep up, I'm like, "Whew," like I feel like I'm gonna pass out. Why are y'all talking so
Oh,
much?
so many times.
Yes. So the singing really helped, and it really helps. And also, like, I read Bible chapters on my page every day, and that like helped a lot. Like just reading out loud, singing, practicing singing, those things really helped. So to go back and like look at some videos and see some moments where I was speaking so tiny, or even like coughing, which nobody like even thinks of with this little.
Oh, the quad cough. Oh.
Yes, like there was times when I could not like cough for myself. Like I would need like someone to like push on my diaphragm and assist me. But now, like I've gotten sick a couple times, and I'm like, hold on, I got this. I'll be like coughing until I'm almost about to like pass out, but I'm like, I can do it, because that's literally like a survival skill. Like I had COVID for the second time. I think, oh, it's been 2 years now. Time really flies. But and I was like needing, to like cough up, mucus or whatever from my chest. And it got to a point where I could not cough anymore. And I also could not breathe in anymore. And luckily, I had my phone in the bed, and I'm calling my mom, and I'm like pressing numbers like, hey, come help me, because coughing is a survival
Yeah,
instinct, like you need it to
mine
survive.
still
So,
sucks.
yeah,
Still
this,
working on it, but you don't realize, and this, sorry to just jump in, but for the listeners, a lot of people with spinal cord injuries die for secondary infections, and respiratory is a big one because getting pneumonia happens very often for those who may have swallowing issues post injury or just breathing or not being able to cough. I know I ended up with pneumonia, I think twice, but once most recently I had COVID and I just wasn't coughing well enough and I ended up with pneumonia. And so yeah, when they tell you practice, use your incentive spirometer or different breathing exercises, it makes a big difference in your daily life. Because I mean, imagine choking. I've often choked with my aides. I'm like, you're gonna have to do something special to save me. Because if y'all feed me too fast and I choke, I can't cough it up the way I should be
Right.
able to. But you may laugh about it, but it really is a life-saving skill.
Yeah, it really is. Because I mean, sometimes I even have to double think. I'm like, do I want to have this snack
Yeah.
while I'm by myself? Because am I gonna be okay? But a lot of times I just do. I'm like, I'm having the snack. But it's a real thing that you have to worry about now.
Now, I wanted to focus on just a bit of the reading the Bible chapters because faith has been always part of my life, but it's been the guiding light post spinal cord injury because I don't think we do anything without a prayer. Like I just said, we think a snack might kill us. You got to pray extra hard over the next one. So um, it's one thing to make it part of your daily routine. It's one thing to keep it in your heart. But what makes you so open to share it with the world on your page and not just saying, hey, Jesus loves you, but actually like going in and sharing some of the verses. In fact, there was one I wanted to share because it is on your Instagram as your verse. It's Ephesians 6:12. I'm gonna jump from 11. It says, "Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." And verse 12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." And in verse 13, "Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and have done all to stand."
Yes.
So, like, what role does it play for you, and what's the importance of sharing it every day?
So, I mean, the role is everything. It's everything to me now. As you were saying before, like I grew up a child going to church and in a Christian family. I live in the South, so most people do go to church and things like that. But after this injury, it kind of just made me have to lean on God more, that I wasn't independent. I couldn't get up and go to work and take care of myself and do all of these things that kind of made me ignore him and maybe put him on the back burner a little bit more before. My life was much less busy now. So it was like one day I would like, read the verse of the day that comes up on the Bible app. And then I was like, I should like read the Bible. Like I should probably read it. And it just kind of was like, I feel like a little whisper from the spirit, like, yeah, you have all this time to spend, and why not spend it, learning more about God, about faith. And so I started doing that. I, gave myself a challenge to read the entire chapter that like the verse of the day comes from instead of just like reading
Oh,
the verse.
okay.
So I was doing that for myself for maybe like 3 years and just getting more and more into my faith. I was like, I like reading out loud when we would have Bible study. Like I would read all the time. So I was like, maybe I should read the chapter, and like maybe people will listen, because it's so short. It's usually less than 5 minutes, and but you can get so much more of the word in if you do that, which is what I did for myself. So then I was like, maybe I should do it for others. And I procrastinated a little while and I prayed about it a little while. And it was just kind of like, okay, now you're just waiting for no reason. And so I was like, all right. So I think in September, I started it and posted my first chapter of the day, and just have been keeping it going every day that I'm able to, that I'm feeling well and like nothing is going on in these freaking bodies that we have, that I just, want to share it with everybody because it really is life changing. I guess people who like don't know Jesus or have that faith in their life, you really don't know like what you're missing out on and how much it just helps you get through everyday life with no matter what you're going through. And like Ephesians 6:12 says, like, we're not battling against flesh and blood. We're not battling against people. There are higher entities in this world that we're fighting against. Like, you're fighting against negativity, you're fighting against anger, you're fighting against, selfishness and all these different things that just come up that may bring little arguments or contention between people. Like, it helps you realize that those things aren't, it's not the person that, you're having these problems with.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there is negativity and things like that going on in the world, that we're having to deal with these things. And the way that we can deal with them better is through Jesus, through the word, and through letting the Holy Spirit work on us and sanctify us and just make us better people every day.
I've never been a converter. That's never been my thing, but I've always been open to sharing. And, if someone has a question or if we're in conversation, I've never been ashamed to say, no, no, I'm a Christian, and the word is what leads me and the Lord. And I'll say this, well, actually two things. One, as you mentioned it before, sometimes we say we're too busy. And I was busy. I had like three jobs and yeah, I still went to church regularly on Saturdays, but was I studying as I should have been? Was I making time for God? And I often joke post injury, I was like, I think God slowed me down because I was too busy. I was doing too much. And even now, I remember my uncle Ronald, who lives in Georgia as well. He says this. I told him sometimes I don't sleep the entire night, as some of us quads just don't. Our sleep quality isn't always the best. And I'm like, yeah, I wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, that's okay. That was God giving you an opportunity to pray. He was like, because nobody else is awake at that time. You're not watching TV. No one's going to call you or text you. He was like, that's an opportunity. And what else can you say? But God just woke you up and said, hey, let's talk for a few minutes. And I'm not going to say every time I've done it. Sometimes I might Instagram it. But, I'll stop and we'll just have a conversation, and it's not one of those Father thou art, and it's one of those, hey, how are you doing? And we'll just have a conversation, and I'll feel, after I've gotten that pressure off my chest, I go back to sleep and I feel fulfilled. And throughout the day, in those dark moments we have, which all of us humans do, but in our case we have those moments where we're not doing anything else, so those thoughts are what's in our minds. It's so uplifting, it's so motivating. And there are many people out there who make millions off of these motivational books, but what's more motivational than the word? What's more uplifting and brightening of your days than some of the verses in the Bible? And I think some people get so caught up in the arguments of religion and all that. I'm like, if you want to put that away, just look for a positive word, because there's so much good and so much less, so many lessons that can be found in the word. So that's why I appreciate it. Like, literally just out of nowhere, I saw it on your page one day on my timeline, and I was like, oh, I was like, that's cool. Why haven't I done something like that, Christian, on me? But I just found it really fulfilling, and you've been consistent, as you said. Sometimes our day or our health may keep us from being as consistent, but I've seen so many of them, and I just wanted to commend you on that from my side here. And even if there's one person that's watching, one person that's listening, or even if for your own personal fulfillment, continue, keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I do enjoy posting them. And like you said, even that, I don't know how many people are watching, how many people see them, but even if they don't come back, I hope it just like plants a little seed and inspires them to read. Because I think sometimes we have so many, like you said, there's arguments about religion and things like that. And like I had to say to myself, I'm like, you haven't even read the Bible. Like, you haven't even read the thing. So, give it a chance and see what happens.
So I know our time is coming up, but Valentine's Day is around the corner. And again, like I said, we've been doing this Instagram following thing for a while. And I remember just out of the blue, CJ was like, I am married. I don't remember seeing you were in a relationship. I don't see Man Crush Monday posts, none of those things. As a matter of fact, I remember just watching your hair growing throughout the posts, and I was like, okay, look at her locks, okay, get you. And then I'm married. Wait, hold on, what did I miss? I actually went back looking through a few. I was like, I missed something. So romance and love and intimacy is like the big, like I think outside of when are you gonna walk again, that is like the next biggest question
Yeah.
everyone asks someone post injury or who's in a wheelchair. So what was it like for you, like getting into the romance part of your life post injury?
Okay. So that is like one of the interesting things. My story starts before I had my accident, but not very long before because I met my now husband, then he was just my boyfriend, only about 5 months before my accident. We met and started dating and hanging out, and we were just like two peas in a pod. We lived in the same neighborhood at the time. We happened to meet at the swimming pool one day, and then after that, we just kept hanging out, and it was awesome. I was like, okay, this is a nice little relationship. But like I'm also like a private person, so I'm like, I'm not posting no boyfriend up on my on my page. Like, like when you put a ring on it, then we'll get your face out there and show the people who you are. But after my accident, I was really shocked. He would come to visit me a lot, and we would spend time together when we could. Of course, it was a very hectic time, so a lot of family and stuff around. So they're kind of like, this boyfriend who's been around for 5 months, push him to the side. We want to be here and see you and talk to you and help you through this, which, is very loving and everything like that. But I want to say maybe after I was in Shepherd Center for about a month, I did tell him, I was like, hey, this is looking like it's going to be a long-term situation. So if you kind of want to dip out, like now's
Wow.
your opportunity. And he just said okay. Like he was like, okay. And then he did like dipped out or anything. He was just like, okay. And
Thanks
so
for letting me know, but I'm good.
right. I'm gonna stick around if you don't mind. So yeah, working through like, regular relationship issues, which really, I mean, I'm super thankful for him. We're really just like two friends and like we just love each other, and it's like a real cutesy type thing. But of course there are disagreements and things like that. And there is like tension and stress that comes with being with somebody who does have a disability, whether that be physical or mental or anything. There's just like extra things that you have to deal with that like we didn't have to deal with, dating back when we were walking and doing everything. Like we didn't have to worry about just tons of things. I mean, accessibility or going on a trip, who's going to take care of you, and things like that. So those times do come, but it's just like a lot of compromise, a lot of problem solving and things like that. So we've just been taking it day by day, and it's been going well. It'll be 10 years for my injury next year. So that'll be like almost 10 years that we've been together. We've been married for 5 years. Of course, from his perspective, that was like way too long because of the injury. It slowed things down. But he's like, no, we should got married way before that. But when you get to these humps and bumps in the road, things
Yeah.
get slowed down. But yeah, it's been great. It's, marriage is a great thing and finding love is a great thing. And I happen to find mine like outside of, well, I think God just knew exactly what I needed anyway. So in my perspective, I'm like, oh, I picked him, but God's like, actually, I did that. So if you just like sit down and give me my credit, because it's like just a really good match, and I'm able to take care of him in ways that he needs to be taken care of outside of being able to get up and make food and clean and all those things. Like, so it's different, but it's definitely possible for any and everybody. And I would just say, like, don't give up on love and relationships just because you have a disability. That doesn't mean that anything ends in your life. Like, as long as you're still living, you can do anything that you want to do. It'll just be in a different kind of way.
That was so cutesy. I think the most cutesy thing I've ever had on the podcast. But it's beautiful. And shout out to, I didn't, do you mind if I ask his name? I don't remember off top.
Curtis.
Curtis. Okay. So shout out to Curtis because many relationships do not survive traumatic injuries, not only disabilities, but diagnoses. And mine didn't. And I was in a 4-year relationship. And many of us who were in therapy at Jackson came in to therapy with our significant others. And then halfway through outpatient, they disappeared or were no longer there. And it's funny because some of us would look at each other like, I haven't seen yours in 2, 3 weeks. I haven't seen yours. And so you kind of just like, you too, all right, bet. And you kind of keep moving. And again, no hard feelings because it's a difficult thing. As you said, you gave them that, not necessarily out, but you understood, hey, this is a hard thing. This is not necessarily what you signed up for. And unfortunately, some people feel the same, like, hey, I don't see this life for me.
I
And
didn't sign up
it
for
is
this.
difficult. I've had the opportunity to speak to some great couples who either got together post injury or survived going through. Cole and Charisma, I've had the chance to chat with them. I've met them, Leon and Tierra Harris, and a few others who are just more of my local therapy or support group folks. Shout out to them. And they just talk about how, just like you said, finding the non-traditional, I guess, ways of fulfilling each other's needs and wants and being creative and just not letting anyone else dictate what their relationship should look like. And, shout out to them. And I've also talked to some single folks who give great advice on how to get out there and get back out there into the dating world as well, post injury. It's funny because we often talk about whose journey is harder post injury, men or women. And whenever it comes to dating, guys always say, yeah, it's the guys, it's harder. Because for girls, you still just got to sit there and look cute. So, a guy's going to approach you no matter
Yeah.
what, you know what I mean? For the guy, it takes courage and all this other confidence. But again, as you said, it's not us. Honestly, God places the right people in your path at the right times. And what people may not know is getting married post injury is difficult. It affects your income, it affects your insurances. So there's so much that goes into it. So again, Valentine's coming around the corner, just leave the opportunity and the space for love and partnership in whatever ways you guys want it open. It's not just because you're injured, you no longer have that desire. Your romance bone just doesn't just go away.
Yeah.
Some people still want kids or, whatever your future looks like to you. It's still very possible in one way or another if you're open to being creative and if you find the right partner.
Yeah, exactly.
CJ, I'm going to continue looking at your page and enjoying your journey and enjoying the scriptures and the music you're sharing with us, and of course, the life that you're sharing with Curtis, with the rest of us, no matter how private it may be. But, it does take a lot of courage to share anything because unfortunately, people on the internet got their opinions and they share them, whether wanted or not. But
Yeah.
these past 10 almost years for both of us, because mine is this year, it's been great just having other folks on the internet that understand you, even though they don't know you. You may not be the best of friends or have met in real life, but we all have some similarities. We know this journey isn't easy. So I'm gonna ask you some encouragement if you want to say them with a C sharp. I won't say no, but just encouragement for some of our listeners who have injuries or just family and friends who want to be supportive.
Yes, so I am not warmed up. I cannot do a
I
t-shirt.
figured I'm not gonna just jump right in.
But I just, want people to know that having a disability or having a spinal cord injury or whatever may come upon you in life is not the end of your life. It's not the end of your life until it is the end. So you have to figure out ways to still live a happy and productive life and to be able to find purpose and joy and just be gentle and give grace to people that are helping you, people that are helping people who have an injury or a disability. Give grace to them, because sometimes in the beginning I would get very angry because these things are really difficult. So if everyone can just give each other some grace and always think about what others may be going through, then that's a good way to make it through this. And definitely relying on God and leaning on Him and getting into that word for some encouragement it's gonna get you through. It's definitely gonna get you through. So that's my little 2 cents.
Cherelle Jackson, Seated Covers on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. You enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully it warms up over there in Georgia. But thank you for joining me. We're going to have to do this again at some point. Have Curtis join us and just talk about coupling and all the other fun stuff, post-spinal cord injuries. But thank you again for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, and thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate it, and hit me up anytime. I'll be around.
You're going to sing for me next time. I'm just letting you know.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the show. Connect with the podcast on social media. Check out our Instagram page at ramp.it.up.podcast or email us at rampituppodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.